Welcome, everybody. I'm Kathy Bruins, and I'm here with Dianna Lanser, and we're going to be talking about her fantastic new book, Even in This. So we're glad you're here to join us in this wonderful time of fall where, coffee and a good book just kind of go together. Hey, Dianna, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well, Kathy. Thank you so much for having me and letting me share a little bit about my book and what God is doing with this book. And
Oh, you're welcome. It's a pleasure having you. I'm excited about your book. I mean, it looks really good. So let's talk a little bit about the writing process. Did you always want to be a writer?
no, I didn't. I never really had any thought of becoming a writer, but as a child, I always had a vivid imagination and I would pretend. And maybe that had something to do with it. I'm always making up stories in my head about people. If I see people walking, I try to imagine or try to guess what their story is. And then since I was probably in middle school, I've always journaled. So that's always been a part of my life, journaling. And so maybe that was part of it. But I went through a season in my life when I had kids. I was busy with children. My husband and I have 5 children, and in the rush of things, and he allowed me to take a step back and allowed me to walk. And so I spent that time walking, and then the story started forming in my head, and I kind of felt a little bit guilty about it. So I confessed this to my sister-in-law, who's an avid reader, and she said, "Oh, Dianna, you should write this book. You should write this story." And so I'm like, oh, so I started to write. And then my mother-in-law encouraged me by sending me to a writer's conference. And I know God just kept confirming this story all the way along. So
That is
yeah,
great. I need to walk more. So
I do too.
taking that as good encouragement to get out there and walk and get the stories downloaded. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So what do you think makes a good story?
Well, I hopefully my story is kind of what I like and what I think is a great story. But I think a great story for me that I enjoy is something that has beautiful writing, is something that speaks to the reader in an emotional way down deep, and then something like a book that changes that reader, and
Yeah.
then also points them to the Creator, to the Lord, and helps them grow in their faith. So, you watch your characters change in a story, right? And hopefully the reader is changed, encouraged, their faith is increased. Um, and then I think also a good story allows you to escape reality for a little bit too, just like a movie. It's like sometimes when you're stressed out, you're just like, I just want to veg out. I think, a good book will allow you to do that too.
Mhm. Well, that's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. You know a good story when you come to the end and you're so sad that it's ended. You want it just
Yes.
to go on.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
well, tell us a little bit about your process in writing a book.
Okay. Well, because I'm not a educated writer, writing to me was totally a new thing. So I started writing down the things that were in my head, like the different scenes that were in my head. And then
Mhm.
to learn to write, I read. I'm not gonna remember her name. Shame on me. But it was a Christian author. I read her book and just kind of looked like, how did she do this? Like I knew the scene that I wanted to write, and then I would look at like one of her scenes and like, how did she do this? How did she do dialogue? How did she do narration? How did she um, build tension? All that. And that's kind of like what I did. And then of course I read a bunch of books on how to write. Um, on writing. Oh, I can't. I have a whole I don't know, I have probably 8 or 10 books that I read that kind of taught me how to write. And then just joining a writer's group helped, because then people could critique your work and say, oh, I would change this or I would do this. Writers' conferences helped a ton too. Sometimes I would, because I had little kids, I would take my pencil and paper and I would just kind of write out scenes if I was at a football game or football practice or play practice, whatever it was. And I would just sit there and write. And then I'd come home and type it in. And I'd write in the morning. And it just kind of, I wrote the book probably over 10 years. So it was just kind of like learning, changing, that kind of thing. Yeah. I don't know if that helps.
It does, because, books, there's no time frame, really.
Yeah.
Right, especially one of your first books. And there's a lot to learn. There is a lot to learn. And it looks like you have taken a lot of the right steps in learning with the reading, the resources, reading other books on how they do things. That's valuable information.
Yeah, you hear, a lot of people say, well, to be a good writer, you have to read a lot. And just because I was a busy mom with 5 children, I didn't have time to read. So I wouldn't say that I'm an avid reader at all. And I'm part of a Facebook group called Avid Christian Fiction Readers. And these people will read 20-some, 30-some books a month. And I'm like, oh, I'm lucky if I can read a book in 3 months, So that makes it important to read a really good book, if you don't get to read a lot. But so I think maybe being really deliberate about what books you do read helps. Would help. But and I do love books that have beautiful writing in them, like Julie Cantrell, Into the Free. Amazing. Her writing is just so beautiful.
Well, what's the most surprising thing that you learned about writing a book?
When I wouldn't say it was surprising. I would say it's shocking. And I was doing research because my main character was from Australia, simply because I like that accent. And I was just like, oh, it's just so cool. And my favorite worship leader he's a British accent, Matt Redman. So I just love that accent. So anyway, I was doing some research because she lived on a cattle station in Australia. And while I was learning about the culture of the outback, I came across this term called the stolen generation. I'm like, what is this? And I'm an investigator, so I'll see something that's like, and it'll catch my attention, and I'll just dig really deep into it. So the stolen generation was a season in time in Australian history where the government gathered up Aboriginal children and took them from their families and put them in mission homes or foster homes, and just to get rid of their indigenous ways. And they thought that this would be a humane way of kind of wiping out the Aboriginal people and their culture. And I was shocked. I was just shocked by this. And it happened from maybe the early 1900s up until 1979, which I graduated from high school in 1979. This is crazy. So I thought, okay, I have to put this in my story. I have to just make people aware that this happened. So then I did research on American history and was very saddened to find that this happened to Native American people as well. And, it still affects families and communities to this day. And it's just really sad if you read about it. It's super, super sad. And in Canada, children who were taken, some children never came home. And there are movies about it now. And I do have a list of movies if people would like more information about Native American culture. It's on one of my blogs. Like, you can access that if you go to my website. There's a movie list. So anyway, that was like the most shocking thing, and I just had to write it into my story because I had never heard of that. It wasn't taught in school. My kids didn't have it in their school, in their learning, their education. And so I thought, well, I'm going to let some people know about this.
Mm-hmm. And that does happen quite a bit with writers as they dig deeper into their subject and they learn things like that. And some aren't so relevant. And you kind of think, where was I during this time?
Right.
Never heard of this. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
In there.
Yeah.
Well, what important advice would you give to first-time writers?
Okay. Like, go to writers' conferences because you learn so much, and you are there with other people who are learning, and you're hearing speakers who have written beautiful books, and they want to share. They're so happy to share their knowledge and their experience. And then I think the next thing would be to join a writers group. And you can, find writers groups at conferences. And there's Word Weavers, which I'm a part of. It's a Christian writers group. And you bring some of your writing, and then people take turns you critique each other's work, and you get some really helpful advice on how to make your writing better, and you just learn. And then I think my book, I think it was probably edited, I don't know, maybe 6 times, and throughout the life of it. And like, I had the first editor was somebody who was in a writers group that I had met through Calvin's Festival of Faith and Writing. We were all part of a special group. We were all part of this special group that we had to kind of apply for. And so after the conference, we met to be, like a critique group. And anyway, so Lisa Burgess was her name, and she read my book, edited it for the first time. Then I had my husband's cousin edit it. She was in the writing industry. And then I had another girl, a Calvin grad, edit it. And all these times I'm making changes. I take their advice and make changes. And I would just say, like, when people tell you to make changes, do it. Just do it, because they know more than you do, especially if you're a first-time writer. And then I was at a writers' conference and heard Laura Lee Craker speak. And I was so impressed with her. And I just wrote her name down. And I said, someday when I get to the point where my book is done and I'm kind of happy with it, I'm going to contact her. And I did. This is probably maybe 4 years ago. And she doesn't know who I am. And but she was so kind and so gracious. And she said, yeah, I will do this. So she did the first edit for me and had some really good suggestions, and getting rid of some things and adding some things. So it took a lot of work of rewriting, and then so I made those changes, and my characters changed too a little bit, like their personalities and things that happened to them. And then when that was done, I sent it to her again, and I said, could you do this again? And she did. And I actually asked her for an endorsement for my book. And she said, she did the edit, but she said, I can't endorse the book unless you change some parts of this. And so I changed them, and I love the book. It's like, it's real. So I would just say, find a really good editor and trust them. Just trust them, because they know what they're doing.
Good advice. What did you edit out of this book?
Okay. I took out the first 7 chapters of the book. They're of Maya, she's the main character. They're of her childhood. So I have those available for anybody who would like to read them. And they do kind of give a little background of her, her spiritual experience, like coming to surrender her life to the Lord as a child. And it's kind of like a dramatic, she gets in a fight with her brothers and her dad kind of goes ballistic, and it's just kind of a big dramatic thing. But anyway, they are available if you sign up for my newsletter. And my favorite chapter of my whole writing of this book is in those 7 chapters. So
Wow.
It's the husband, like Maya's mom and dad, they kind of get in a fight a little bit, and it's at night, in the middle of the night. So anyway, that's my favorite scene.
Well, it sounds worth reading.
Yeah.
Those chapters. Fill in some of the questions that people might have, and
it
because
might help fill in some blanks, but hopefully I made it clear in the book kind of what happened too. I refer to it.
I think you have, because I remember having some questions about earlier years, because they talk about them. So yeah, I could say how that would be a great bonus to have along with this book.
Yeah.
So how did you select the names of the characters?
So most of the characters are my nieces and nephews. So I have 5 children plus a ton of nieces and nephews. So all the characters are their names, except for maybe just a couple people, a couple characters in the book. And they're, some of them are just like really minor characters. And I had to like change I have a niece, Brooklyn, and I changed her name to Brooks or Brooke, and it's a guy. And I think the main character, another main character is Brant. That's my son's name. So it's kind of fun.
Oh, yes. Do you identify with one character in particular?
I do. Yeah. It would be Maya. She's, the main character, and she's the one who goes through a really difficult time. And my experience of having to lean into the Lord was not as tragic as Maya's, but the surrendering to God's, I guess, there's a question of, yes, God knows everything. He sees everything that happens to us, and he knows that it's going to happen before it happens. Everything runs through his hands, right? We have a decision to make. How are we going to handle that? Are we going to trust God in it? Are we going to get angry in it? So anyway, I relate with Maya the most, and that's kind of why this story came about. I didn't know that there was some hurt and some questions that I had to reckon with God, and this just kind of helped me do some reckoning with the Lord.
Okay.
But yeah, so Maya is probably the one that I would relate to, and probably a lot of me is in her character.
Okay.
So yeah. So now I'm really in trouble.
No. No trouble.
When people read, they'll go, "Oh, Dianna, I know what you're like."
No. I think you may have said this earlier, that a good book, it helps a person change inside. A good story, and this, I think your book is one of those. So. Will there be a sequel, or are you writing a different book, or what you up to?
Yeah, I hope there will be a sequel. I feel like my life is super, super busy.
Mhm.
And, like as a writer, you have to have a lot of downtime to like get in this zone to write. And I don't really have that. I have like the first chapter, which I really struggled to write the first part of, even in this. I probably rewrote it 10 times. And I still, it's like, I don't know, if it's okay. But the first chapter of the sequel I love it. I really like it. So I'm super
Wonderful.
excited that if, the Lord gives me time, I would love to write the sequel because there are some things that are, after you read the book, you go, oh, this thing is hanging. This thing is hanging. So there's a few things that are hanging. And I did that on purpose because I
Mhm.
wanted to write a sequel.
Perfect. That's what writers do.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's more
Yeah.
to the story.
Right. Right.
Oh. Well, let me pull up a picture.
Mm.
Yeah, such a lovely cover. I really,
Uh,
really like it. And
Thank you. So can I give a little plug for Hannah Linder?
well, absolutely.
Hannah Linder. Okay, thank you. So Hannah Linder is the designer of this book, and she is also a 5-time SALA award winning author, and she writes Regency era books. And I've read one of her books, well, the one that just won the SALA award this year, and it's kind of my kind of book. It's got a lot of action and drama and suspense in it. So anyway, if you are looking for a good book to read, besides even in this, look up The Girl from the Hidden Forest by Hannah Linder.
Well, that's great. You can't have enough books. I know that.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, our time's up, I'm afraid, but it's been
Oh,
wonderful just spending some
mm,
time with you and
mm,
talking to
mm.
you about even in this. And just to let everyone know, the publication date's on November 11. I'm just so thankful that you've written the book and that you're here to talk about it. And we look
Mm.
forward um, for what to see what the Lord's going to do with it. I'm sure He has
Yes,
a
yeah.
plan. So.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. It seems like God has kind of worked out all the details. So I think He's behind this and just really grateful. I'm grateful for your help to get the word out. And I'm grateful to get to know you. I appreciate your friendship too. Yeah, and I'm grateful to everybody who's going to read the book. And I hope that it will be a blessing, encouragement, and something that will grow your faith and your love for the Lord.
Yes. Amen.